Dr. Jasmine Carter's hands trembled as the elderly Korean woman gripped her wrist with surprising strength, pulling her away from the crowd of mourners. "You came," the woman whispered in accented English, her eyes glistening with tears. "My Ji-hoon said you might not. But you're here. You're really here." Jasmine's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd only come to the funeral to pay respects to Dr. Park Sung-min, the renowned cosmetic surgeon who'd mentored her during her residency. She didn't know this woman. She'd never heard the name Ji-hoon before in her life. "I think there's been a mistake," Jasmine started, but the woman's grip tightened. "No mistakes. Calme. Quickly." The woman's voice dropped to an urgent whisper. "They're watching. You must act natural. You're his fiancée. You love him. You're devastated by your father-in-law's death." Jasmine's blood ran cold. Father-in-law? Dr. Park had been her mentor, nothing more. And she certainly wasn't engaged to anyone, let alone someone named Ji-hoon. Before she could protest again, the woman guided her through a side door of the funeral home, away from the main viewing area. They entered a small private room where 3 men in expensive black suits stood like sentinels. Their faces were expressionless, but their eyes tracked Jasmine's every movement. "This is her," one of them asked in Korean. Jasmine had picked up some Korean phrases during her time working with Dr. Park, enough to catch the skepticism in his tone. "Yes," the elderly woman said firmly, also in Korean, then switched back to English. "My son's fiancée, Jasmine." Jasmine's stomach dropped. How did this woman know her name? The man who'd spoken stepped forward, studying Jasmine's face with unsettling intensity. The young master never mentioned she was black. "Love sees no color," the elderly woman said sharply. "My Ji-hoon has always followed his heart. Now leave us. I need to speak with my future daughter-in-law privately." The men exchanged glances but obeyed, filing out of the room. The moment the door clicked shut, the woman's demeanor changed. The grief-stricken mother disappeared, replaced by someone far more calculating. "Sit," she commanded, gesturing to a chair. Jasmine remained standing. "I don't know who you think I am, but I'm not." Dr. Jasmine Carter, 25 years old, plastic surgeon at Mercy General Hospital. You graduated top of your class from Johns Hopkins. You have a younger brother in college and a mother who works as a high school principal in Atlanta. The woman's eyes bore into hers. You also have $180,000 in student loan debt, and your brother's tuition is due in 3 weeks. The air left Jasmine's lungs. "How do you? I'm Mrs. Park Min-seo. And yes, Dr. Park Sung-min was my husband." She paused, letting that sink in. He was also the head of the largest Korean organized crime family on the East Coast. Jasmine's legs went weak. She sank into the chair. Mrs. Park continued, her voice matter-of-fact. "My husband died 3 days ago. Not from natural causes, despite what the death certificate says. He was poisoned by a rival family, the Kims. They want to take over our territory. The only thing stopping them is my son, Ji-hoon." "I still don't understand what this has to do with me," Jasmine said, though dread was already pooling in her stomach. "My son has been in Seoul for the past 2 years, managing our operations there. He was supposed to return last month, but he's been delayed. The Kims know this. They're circling like sharks." Mrs. Park leaned forward. "Ji-hoon told everyone, including me, that he got engaged while in Seoul, to an American woman, a doctor. He said he'd bring her home for the funeral." Understanding dawned on Jasmine's face. But he didn't. "No. And if the family, if our allies and enemies, discover that Ji-hoon lied, that he invented a fiancée to make himself look stable and committed, they'll see weakness, vulnerability. The Kims will strike before he can even land in the country." Mrs. Park's expression hardened. "My son is flying back tonight. He'll be here in 14 hours. Until then, you will be his fiancée." "You're insane," Jasmine breathed. I won't. I will pay off every cent of your student loans. I will pay for your brother's entire college education. And I will give you $200,000 cash." Mrs. Park pulled out her phone and showed Jasmine a banking app. I can transfer half right now. The rest when Ji-hoon arrives safely and takes control of the family. Jasmine stared at the screen. The number seemed obscene. It would change her life, her family's life. But this was insane, illegal, dangerous. What happens when your son gets here and sees I'm not actually his fiancée? Jasmine asked. For the first time, something like uncertainty crossed Mrs. Park's face. That's complicated. Complicated how? Mrs. Park sighed. My son never actually described his fiancée to me. We only spoke on the phone, and he was always vague about details. He said he wanted it to be a surprise. And the truth is... She paused. I don't think she exists. I think Ji-hoon invented her to buy himself time, to keep the family from pressuring him about marriage and heirs. He's brilliant in business, but terrible at personal deception. So you want me to pretend to be a woman who doesn't exist? I want you to pretend to be engaged to my son until he's safely home and can take control. After that, you can have a very public, very amicable breakup. Cultural differences, career demands, whatever story you both prefer. Mrs. Park's voice turned cold. But if you refuse, the Kims will kill my son the moment he steps off that plane. And Dr. Park's legacy, everything he built, including the free clinic he ran that you volunteered at during residency, will be destroyed. Jasmine's chest tightened. She had volunteered at Dr. Park's clinic. He'd never charged the immigrant families who came through those doors. She'd thought it was pure generosity. Now she understood it was probably part of his empire, a way to build loyalty, to help his community. Why me? Jasmine asked quietly. Why not hire an actress? Someone who could actually pull this off. Because you're a surgeon. You're intelligent, composed under pressure. You worked closely with my husband, so your presence at his funeral is natural. And Mrs. Park hesitated. My husband spoke highly of you. In his final days, he said you had integrity, that you were someone who could be trusted. I need someone I can trust. Jasmine closed her eyes. This was madness. She should walk out right now, call the police, pretend this conversation never happened. But $200,000. Her loans gone. Her brother's education secured. Her mother could finally retire. And somewhere, a man named Ji-hoon was flying toward his death if she refused. 14 hours, Jasmine said finally, opening her eyes. That's all. The moment your son is safe, I'm done. Mrs. Park's shoulders sagged with relief. 14 hours. Thank you, Dr. Carter. What do I need to know? Jasmine asked, her mind already racing. If I'm going to convince anyone we're engaged, I need details. Where did we meet? How long have we been together? Does he have any distinguishing features I should know about? Mrs. Park pulled out a folder that seemed to have been prepared in advance. Inside were photographs, documents, and handwritten notes. You met at a medical conference in Seoul 18 months ago. He was there representing Park Pharmaceuticals, one of our legitimate businesses. You bonded over discussions of reconstructive surgery techniques. He proposed 6 months ago at Namsan Tower. Mrs. Park handed Jasmine a photograph. Jasmine's breath caught. The man in the photo was striking, sharp jawline, intelligent eyes, an expression that suggested both confidence and weariness. He wore a tailored suit and stood against a Seoul skyline. He's 32 years old. He has a scar on his left shoulder from a childhood accident. He prefers scotch to wine. He speaks 4 languages fluently. And Mrs. Park's voice softened. He's a good man, Dr. Carter. Despite everything, despite this life, he's tried to be good. Jasmine studied the photograph, memorizing every detail. In 14 hours, she'd have to convince a room full of criminals, and this man himself, that she was in love with him. She'd performed surgery on gunshot wounds at 3 a.m. She'd held steady through 12-hour reconstructive procedures. Surely she could survive 14 hours of deception. Let's begin, Jasmine said, squaring her shoulders. Tell me everything. Before we dive into Jasmine's crash course in deception, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Are you team Jasmine should run or team get that bag? If you're hooked on this story, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens when Ji-hoon finally arrives. Will he go along with his mother's plan? Will Jasmine's cover be blown? Stay tuned to find out. The next 6 hours passed in a blur of information and preparation. Mrs. Park was meticulous, drilling Jasmine on every detail of Ji-hoon's life. His favorite foods, his childhood memories, the name of his first dog, the university he attended, his closest friends in Seoul. He has a tell when he's lying, Mrs. Park said as they sat in her private study at the Park estate. He touches his left earlobe. Just briefly. Most people don't notice, but you would. You're his fiancée. Jasmine absorbed everything, her medical training helping her compartmentalize the fear and focus on the task. She'd been given clothes from Ji-hoon's supposed shopping trips, designer pieces that fit her perfectly, which only reinforced how thoroughly Mrs. Park had planned this. There's one more thing, Mrs. Park said, sliding a small velvet box across the desk. The engagement ring. Jasmine opened it. The ring was stunning, a flawless diamond surrounded by smaller stones, set in platinum. It looked antique, precious. It was my mother's, Mrs. Park said softly. In our story, Ji-hoon gave you a family heirloom. It shows you're accepted, cherished. Jasmine's hands shook as she slid the ring onto her finger. The weight of it felt like a shackle. The viewing resumes in an hour, Mrs. Park said, checking her watch. The family will expect to see you there. You'll sit with me in the front row. You'll greet the guests. You'll play the role of the devoted future daughter-in-law mourning her fiancé's father. And if someone asks questions I can't answer, deflect. You're grieving. You're overwhelmed. Lean into your emotions. Mrs. Park's gaze was steady. But remember, Dr. Carter, there are people in that room who kill for a living. If they sense deception, if they smell weakness, both of us are dead. The funeral home was packed when they returned. Jasmine recognized some faces from the medical community, but most were strangers, men and women in expensive clothes with hard eyes and harder expressions. Mrs. Park kept Jasmine close, introducing her to family members and associates. Each introduction felt like a test. This is my future daughter-in-law, Jasmine, Mrs. Park would say, and Jasmine would bow slightly, offering condolences in the broken Korean phrases she'd hastily memorized. Most people seemed to accept her presence, though she caught whispers and sidelong glances. The 3 men from earlier, Mrs. Park's security detail, watched her constantly. Then a woman approached. She was young, maybe Jasmine's age, beautiful in a cold, calculated way. She wore a black dress that probably cost more than Jasmine's car. So you're the mysterious American fiancé, the woman said in perfect English, her smile not reaching her eyes. I'm Park Yuna, Ji-hoon's cousin. It's nice to meet you, Jasmine said carefully. Strange that Ji-hoon never mentioned you before his father died, Yuna continued, her tone light but probing. We're very close, my cousin and I. We tell each other everything. Jasmine felt Mrs. Park tense beside her. Ji-hoon wanted to keep our relationship private, Jasmine said, keeping her voice steady. Given the nature of family business, we thought it was safer. Safer. Yuna's eyes glittered. How thoughtful. And yet here you are, at the most public family event in years. She stepped closer. Tell me, Jasmine, what's Ji-hoon's favorite childhood memory? The question hung in the air like a blade. Jasmine's mind raced through everything Mrs. Park had told her. There was something about a summer house, a beach, his father teaching him to swim. The summer he turned 8, Jasmine said, meeting Yuna's gaze. His father took him to Busan. They stayed in the family beach house for 2 weeks. Ji-hoon said it was the only time he saw his father completely relaxed. They'd wake up early and watch the sunrise together. His father taught him that those quiet moments were more valuable than any amount of money or power. The story was from Mrs. Park's briefing, a memory she'd shared with tenderness. Jasmine watched Yuna's expression shift, surprise, then something like grudging respect. He told you about Busan, Yuna said quietly. He really does love you. She walked away without another word. Mrs. Park released a breath Jasmine hadn't realized she'd been holding. Well done, she whispered. But Jasmine's heart was hammering. That had been too close. How many more tests would she have to pass? Before we continue, If you're enjoying the story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below telling me what you think will happen when Ji-hoon arrives. Will he expose Jasmine immediately? Or will they have to keep up this dangerous charade? Your support helps me bring you more stories like this. The hours crawled by. Jasmine played her role flawlessly, accepting condolences, telling the carefully constructed story of her romance with Ji-hoon. Some people seemed suspicious. Others seemed genuinely happy for the family. Through it all, she kept glancing at her phone. Mrs. Park had given her updates. Ji-hoon's plane had taken off on time. He'd be landing in 4 hours. Then 3. Then 2. When he arrives, I'll bring him in through the private entrance, Mrs. Park said as the viewing finally ended. I'll explain the situation. He'll understand. Will he? Jasmine asked. You're asking him to go along with a lie that could get him killed if it's exposed. He'll understand, Mrs. Park repeated, but Jasmine heard the uncertainty there. They waited in Mrs. Park's study. Jasmine had changed into more comfortable clothes, though they were still from the wardrobe Mrs. Park had prepared. The engagement ring felt heavy on her finger. At 11:47 p.m., the door opened. The man from the photograph walked in, and Jasmine's breath caught. Pictures hadn't done him justice. Ji-hoon Park was tall, broad-shouldered, with an intensity that filled the room. His suit was wrinkled from travel, his tie loosened, but he carried himself with absolute confidence. Then his eyes landed on Jasmine, and that confidence cracked. Mother, he said slowly, his English accent less and precise. Who is this? Mrs. Park stood. Ji-hoon, we need to talk. This is Dr. Jasmine Carter. She's been posing as your fiancée. The silence that followed was deafening. Ji-hoon's gaze moved from his mother to Jasmine, then back again. My what? Your imaginary fiancé, Mrs. Park said calmly. The one you invented to avoid family pressure. The one you claimed would be attending your father's funeral. The one whose absence would have signaled weakness to the Kims and gotten you killed the moment you landed. Ji-hoon's jaw tightened. He looked at Jasmine again, really looked at her this time. She saw the moment he understood, saw intelligence, calculation, and something else flash across his face. You put an innocent civilian in danger, he said to his mother, his voice hard. You involved someone who has nothing to do with our world. I saved your life, Mrs. Park shot back. I didn't ask you to. You never do. Mrs. Park's voice softened. But you're all I have left. Jasmine watched this exchange feeling like an intruder. The grief, the love, the anger between mother and son. It was raw and real and overwhelming. Finally, Ji-hoon turned to Jasmine. Dr. Carter, I apologize for my mother dragging you into this situation. I assume she's paying you well. She's paying off my student loans and my brother's tuition, Jasmine said honestly, and giving me $200,000. Something flickered in Ji-hoon's eyes. Respect, maybe. Practical. I appreciate that. He loosened his tie further. How long have you been playing this role? About 12 hours. And how many people have you convinced? Everyone at the funeral, including your cousin Yuna. Ji-hoon's eyebrows rose. Yuna believed you? She's the most suspicious person I know. I told her about Busan, Jasmine said quietly. About the summer you turned 8. About watching sunrises with your father. The room went very still. Ji-hoon stared at Jasmine like he was seeing her for the first time, really seeing her. His mother had shared one of his most precious memories with a stranger, and that stranger had wielded it perfectly. The Kims are planning something, Mrs. Park said, breaking the silence. We've intercepted communications. They expect you to be vulnerable, distracted by grief, and alone. If they discover there's no fiancé, no stability, no American connections through marriage, they'll strike. So what are you proposing? Ji-hoon asked, though his eyes never left Jasmine's face. That we continue this charade. Just for a few weeks, Mrs. Park said. Until you've consolidated power. Until the family is secure. Then Dr. Carter can return to her life with her payment, and you can have your amicable breakup. A few weeks, Jasmine said, her voice sharper than she intended. You said 14 hours. You said until he landed safely. Plans change, Mrs. Park said simply. Jasmine stood, anger flooding through her. No, we had a deal. Your son is home. He's safe. I'm done. If you leave now, the Kims will know something is wrong, Mrs. Park said. They have eyes everywhere. A fiancé who disappears the moment Ji-hoon arrives? That's suspicious. That's blood in the water. That's not my problem. I'll double your payment, Ji-hoon said suddenly. Jasmine turned to stare at him. $400,000 total, he continued, his voice calm and businesslike. Plus your original terms, loans paid, your brother's education covered. And I'll do it in 3 weeks, not a few. 21 days. After that, you're free. Ji-hoon, Mrs. Park started. No, Mother. This is my decision. His gaze remained locked on Jasmine. Dr. Carter has already done more than anyone had the right to ask. If she's going to continue helping us, it will be with full transparency and appropriate compensation. Jasmine's mind spun. $400,000. 3 weeks. 21 days of pretending to be engaged to a man she just met. 21 days in a world of organized crime, violence, and deception. 21 days that could end with her dead if she made one wrong move. But $400,000. Financial freedom. Her family's future secured. She looked at Ji-hoon Park, this stranger who was supposed to be her fiancé, and saw something unexpected in his eyes. Not manipulation or coldness, but genuine respect. He was giving her a choice. A real choice. 21 days, Jasmine said finally. Not a day more. And I want half the money up front transferred tonight. Ji-hoon's lips curved into the smallest smile. Deal. He extended his hand. Jasmine shook it, feeling the warmth of his grip, the calluses that spoke of someone who'd worked with his hands despite his wealth. Well then, fiancé, Ji-hoon said, that small smile growing. I suppose we should get to know each other. After all, we're madly in love. Mrs. Park exhaled with relief. I'll arrange for Dr. Carter's things to be moved into the guest house. You two should spend tomorrow getting your story straight. The family dinner is in 2 days, and everyone will be watching. As Mrs. Park left the room, Jasmine found herself alone with Ji-hoon, the man she was supposed to love, the man whose life was now tangled with hers for the next 3 weeks. For what it's worth, Ji-hoon said quietly, I really am sorry you're caught up in this. My family, we're complicated. Complicated? Jasmine repeated. That's one way to put it. You could have said no. You could have walked out. So could you, Jasmine pointed out. You could have told your mother this was insane. Ji-hoon laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his face. You clearly don't know my mother very well yet. When she makes up her mind, arguing is pointless. I'm starting to figure that out. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of what they'd agreed to settling between them. 21 days, Ji-hoon said finally. Let's try not to get killed. That's a low bar for success, Jasmine replied. In my world, Dr. Carter, survival is always the first goal. His expression turned serious. Everything else is a bonus. As Jasmine followed him out of the study and into her strange new life, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just made either the best or worst decision of her life. Only time would tell which. And the clock was already ticking. If you want to see what happens next in Jasmine and Ji-hoon's dangerous 3-week engagement, let me know in the comments. Should I continue the story? What do you think will happen at the family dinner? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.